Is Bitcoin crashing, and what are the other narratives that could be brewing in crypto right now? There's going to be some, and you guys don't want to miss this one. We're going to dive in deep, some charts. You'll love it. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. All right, we're going to get started, and I want to thank our sponsor, and that is Lux Algo. If you guys are looking at trading tools, and we're going to use some Lux Algo tool sets today, a lot of their indicators will be on the charts. We'll be breaking down a whole slew of these. But of course, you can go over and visit Lux Algo just by using our link. All you have to do is click that link down below. It's going to get you to a special offer, and it's your way to get into your trading tools that will help you enhance your trading experience. So check it out. It does help the channel out. I want to talk about Bitcoin first, and then we'll get into some charts here in a minute. But BlackRock now holding 2,600 Bitcoin worth over 120 million. So they are starting to get into the game a bit. But at the same time, we're also starting to see Bitcoin retrace a little bit. Now, this has been one of the things that we've talked about. Is Bitcoin going to retrace for a short period of time, or is this something that could hold out for a longer period of time? I want to break all these charts down with you. And we thought, all right, well, who better than the Lux Algo team? Let's get Jacob and have him jump in here on the show. All right, Jacob, there you are, my man.
How's it going? Good to be back. Yeah.
All right, so we got a couple of things. We're going to run a whole bunch of tokens at you today. And at the same time, we're going to set up some stocks that are, crypto driven toward the end, and kind of get a bigger narrative where some of the things are going. Let's take a look at Bitcoin right now. First of all, on the chart, what do you like? What do you don't like?
Yeah, absolutely. So, every week we've been watching this weekly order block, and now it is fully confirmed that it did act as resistance. We got 2 days left, obviously, in the week, but for now, because of the ETF type of I guess the rumor of sell the news event is true at this point, because we are selling off quite a bit, down 5%. But again, we watched this level. We talked about it on this a few times and on our stream, but that 47 mark was something we were eyeing, and we hit. But again, 50K was kind of, if we were to actually fully break out and hold above that breaker or above that order block, 50K was our target. 49K will do. But for now, on the weekly, it seems as if, we're looking like this might be a temporary high. And then I wanted to actually pull up the hourly, because we were plotting this actually recently, and we're coming into what we call our reversal zone. So when the market's more choppy like this, coming in these consolidation periods, we look to see if price gets extended. And right now, we have extended into a 1 hour reversal. And so we're kind of maybe thinking, this might be a point in which we retrace maybe back to retest a recent swing low, like 44,000. But for now, man, what a day it's been so far.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at my chart here, and I've got the oscillator matrix on as well. So you can see the money flow kind of starting to drip out there. So is this the point right here? Because I'm on the hourly as well. So I'm kind of in agreement. This might be the area where we do see a little bit of rejection coming off that 43.6 range, which is where we are trading right now.
Extremely extended right now.
Yeah. When you look at, so Bitcoin, the narrative has been fading out on the ETFs. We've seen now Wall Street is in the game. Likelihood is it doesn't seem as though Bitcoin is trading any differently other than any other kind of scenario that has played out with Bitcoin narratives overall. Is this something, when you look at a long-term chart for Bitcoin, if you said, all right, let's look at this going into the early February, what would be your consideration of how to play the Bitcoin chart right now?
Yeah, I mean, we are in a, of course, yeah. I mean, I think this is healthy. I think it's healthy market movements. We got we're 95 days out from the halving event in April. So it's one of those things where can we hold this value? We were looking at the halving percentages yesterday, and the fact that we had a year from halving last time was roughly 70% gain. And so we're hoping, I think we're sitting around 65% gain a year out from this considered halving date. So, if we can roughly sit around that level, it seems like the overall, the movements are going to be relatively the same coming into that halving. So hoping, the 40K mark consists of a nice support. But again, we broke out with the ETF news. If it were to come back and retrace, I don't think it would be a crazy sell-off, but it would be a healthy move nonetheless. So I'm not too worried about it in the short term.
Yeah, I'm looking at the indicator here on the daily. So we saw the indicators here on Lux Algo on the signal overlay, giving us a little bit of that upside that has, of course, been going on for the last 10 days when we were back in this zone around 43. And then a little bit of that indicator right there coming in to show us, kind of where this market has started to slip down. Of course, you could see the money
Yes,
flow
yeah.
coming out on the daily too.
Mm-hmm.
So that, that's another situation. But with this too, Jacob, there's a narrative that seems to be underscoring what's happening with Bitcoin right now. And the narrative is ETH. ETH, of course, jumped 20%
Right.
versus Bitcoin on the day that Bitcoin goes live. And I kind of think it's like one of the things you and I've talked about before is this sell the news because, hey, what's next kind of thing. And the ETH narrative has been brewing. We've been looking at this. We made some very interesting trades on ETH here recently because it has been a very stagnated asset. When you look at ETH right now on the chart, where do you see this one going? Can we break this 26 and hold it?
Yeah. So, I mean, like we said before, 2,500 was our target because of these recent lows. And it's exactly what we've hit, high 27, I think, roughly. Yeah. So that 27 mark, man, this has been outstanding. I'm really glad to see ETH is deciding to trade a lot better, even with Bitcoin falling, because, they used to follow very close to each other. And now recently it's been a little different, which is awesome to see because then I have more faith in trading them separately now.
Right.
But in this case, like on this chart, the difference between Bitcoin is Bitcoin actually came up and retested this swing high. So maybe the delay in this and, the hype around the whole Ethereum getting its ETF as well, we might get that a similar run to Bitcoin around that news too. So, 3K wouldn't be a bad target because, that's a pretty psychological level with the 3,000 mark. But again, we have an order block sitting up there at 3,400. We saw the same move on Bitcoin. It went up, tested that exact same type of pattern.
Exactly.
So, honestly, I'm not going to be too against it going as high as 3,500. So
Yeah.
let's see.
Well, you look at Bitcoin dominance right now. I mean, you can see this has been that adjustment. And when you look at Bitcoin dominance overall and the potential of where ETH, because typically some people will take profits and or they'll shift, their investment strategy into new narratives where, all right, Bitcoin's kind of been the narrative moving into the ETF. This will continue its little run and we'll see a little bit of adjustments as markets start to correct, maybe on a Fed pivot in terms of maybe seeing that happen. But ETH has really been in a good position, I think, to your point, of maybe getting a big angle here. I want to jump over to, so you think 3,000. I like 3,000. I like your number there.
3,000. Yeah. I just like, I think there's a lot of psychological levels in the market. So
Yeah,
to be conservative,
definitely be
3,000, great mark.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely be one. Let's take a quick look at Uniswap. This has been another token that's been moving slightly. When you look at Uniswap, let's take a look at the Coinbase chart. See what you tell me what you think is going to happen right now with Uniswap. Do we see any upside on this?
Yeah, I mean, this is the start to that upside move, I think. In this case, we have one of our stronger signals, which is a force signal. And what we're noticing is it's actually has broken that recent structure, right? We've been in a downtrend, several break of structures, meaning lower lows conflicting with lower highs. So proper downtrend move, but now we've broken out of that. So this is the first step to that upside move. In this case, you can see before with how it moved into an uptrend, it did the exact same thing. We had a nice structure change. You started setting higher lows. You get the bullish candles there, triggering into a very lovely high volume uptrend. So it coming over that neo cloud right now. If we were to just talk about Fibonacci's in sense, I mean, this is coming right down to people that trade price action. We have a fair value gap concept or feature. You can see it lining up where it's already bouncing off of an FVG. So when structure lines up that way, it's usually going to actually, especially if it reacts, it's going to properly move accordingly. So hopefully that structure continues to move in the right direction.
Well, the other thing is, and I think this will play out with a lot of associated tokens to the ETH ecosystem, Uniswap being one of those that will play positively. The other one that could go in this direction is Matic. Now, Matic had a recent run. their announcement, they just recently dropped. I think it was yesterday. So phase 2 now starting. It's going to be more apps, more users, capital. That was really the announcement for what they're doing with their ZK EVMs. And, for those of you, maybe you're watching our show for the first time and you're trying to learn about crypto and we're getting into all these terms, just look at ETH and Polygon. Polygon, of course, riding within the ETH ecosystem to help it basically run faster, do more transactions. That's all you need to really know. When you look at Polygon right now, Jacob, does this token look like it can hold its current uptrend that it's been holding, or is this one that you think will start to stall a bit?
Yeah. This chart, very similar to the Uniswap chart. So in this case, though, this seems as if the volume's a little bit stronger due to the impulse that it had upon that breakout. Similar situation, it is testing a imbalance at the moment, which is lining up with a high back in January, a lower high back in January, which is fantastic. But this one, the difference between this one and Uniswap was it actually blew through this imbalance that it had. So that's a good sign for the upside move. In this case, if I take off like price action concepts, you'll see that the Neo Cloud here is actually starting to flip bullish. So if we can get support in the 80s here, anywhere in the 80s, in my opinion, then
that's probably going to be
we can probably see that breakout. Yeah, for sure.
All right, so that's another one to keep an eye on right now, Polygon. Let's go outside the ETH ecosystem, blend over into Solana a bit. It had a short run during the the Bitcoin ETF day where we cracked over 100. I think we hit 103. When you look at Solana, again, been a very, very strong narrative. This is a report from Masari saying, hey, listen, this is going to be the year of Sol. A couple points in this topic right here. Is that it started very strong. Obviously, we saw Solana come off the floor at around $8, now trading over 100. But it's increased 423%. That's not a misprint, people. Just in the last quarter of 2023. And at this point, Sol is having a barnstormer year at 43.8 billion. So ranked 5th now among all cryptocurrencies. At one point, if you look at it, was nestled in right behind ETH. So you look at Solana, and I think there's a lot of Solana people that watch our shows. So we probably got a lot of Solana bulls out there that really are in this token pretty heavily. What do you like? What do you don't like about its current chart action?
Yeah, well, this is probably the year for Solana for sure. Sadly, we're down 70% starting the year, but that's okay. We're at the beginning of the year, which is healthy, especially after these big pumps. We talked about that target being the first range of 126 to 144 from the order block. And again, we say when these order blocks pop up, especially on the higher time frames, always consider them as a potential take profit because you never know when it's going to be almost exact like this. So, but what I really want to touch on is the daily. The daily chart. This after this most recent pump. Like we talked about with the Neo Cloud, it did flip and it is treating it as resistance. Now we are setting lower lows at a slower pace in this moment, so you could consider this a nice retracement. This is a very long bull flag. I would have wanted it to break out by now, but it's still in that formation on the daily. Now we would need a higher low for this to break, but I think if we can clear 107, I think we go retest the highs. But for now, I'm not really going to consider selling nor buying this at the moment, just due to the fact that it had this really aggressive run. But if it were to actually kick in some volume, and show me that it wants to continue to go retest that high, then I would consider a nice break.
Yeah, so more of a hold position right now if you've been in Solana. If you are not in Solana, just kind of wait for a potential entry. This one may be a little bit harder to get to. Let's talk about a couple other tokens. I want to kind of just show a tweet here from Eleanor Terrett. And she hits on a couple of IPOs, but really the IPO I'm interested in is that one, Ripple. If Ripple gets an IPO off the floor, what happens to XRP? And because obviously we've seen first a big win with XRP. XRP had a nice little run and then retraced down a bit. You saw, Rep French Hill. He was on CNBC yesterday, and look what's right next to him right there. XRP. XRP is next to a congressman on CNBC. That's just crazy. So
inside information.
Yeah, right. Well, the point is that the fact that they're treating these assets as Main Street,
Right.
Main Street, Wall Street, which is all really what it boils down to. XRP as a whole right now, do you like this as a buy or a sell or a hold? What's your position?
Yeah, let's look. In this case, I mean, this one I do like more with, especially with that news brewing, more of a buy. I mean, you can see based on just the overall trading aspect on a weekly chart here, your low's 14 cents, but then luckily your high is like $3. But in this case, you are in a high volume trading range. So a lot of people are trading it through this area with, news pending like that, a rumor that might turn into some pretty aggressive short-term buying. This level is great, very very high volume trading level on the weekly. On the daily front, I mean, coming off this high, still once again a nice little area. I'm somebody that does like to follow trends though, so in this case, I personally be patient. On if I was a shorter term trader. Longer term, this is a great value, I think. But for shorter term, I would consider 66. Over 66, I'm trading this through the 70s, if not maybe go retest the highs in the 80s.
Okay.
But I would want to get that, breakout. We've currently, just came off of a small uptrend, rejected a very aggressive order block, and now selling off. So it's one of those things where structure needs a switch for me to actually consider a good shorter term buy.
For short term, if you're looking at long term, might be a position. Currently,
Yes.
because it has been trending down. I was looking at that. Even when we track our sentiment data, you look at that top line around 71 on the local back on early November. I don't know. It's had a little bit of a downtrend, and sentiment has not been popping just yet on XRP. So
Right.
It could be in a good position for maybe starting to dollar cost average if you're looking at a long term play. Here for sure.
Exactly.
All right, others that might play into this. I want to get into a few stocks. This, of course, everybody knows about Nancy Pelosi, the greatest stock trader ever in the history of man. I don't know how she does it. I'm going to start taking stock tips from her. But NVIDIA,
I think people just follow her.
Yeah, right.
That's pretty much what
this
happens.
Is definitely the opposite of Jim Cramer. Let's talk about NVIDIA for a second. NVIDIA absolutely flying. And the likelihood after CES announcing so much VR and AI integration that NVIDIA could see some very big upside in the quarters to come. We'll also see a variety of earnings reports coming out with a variety of some of the top tech companies out there. But what about NVIDIA? What do you like here?
Yeah, NVIDIA, I mean, this is a typical bull case. I mean, nothing you fight the trend. The reason why we talk about the Neo so much is because when price is trading above it, it's like a guaranteed hold, in my opinion, especially long term. You do have earnings, coming up in February. Those of you that mostly crypto traders, you definitely want to be there to read the earnings report when it comes to stocks, because that's super important on the outlook of these companies. So come their earnings report, that's really going to drive where our direction probably is for 2024 going into 2025. In this case, I don't see it really going anywhere from here. So, long-term holders, this is, something that, obviously Pelosi's the number one stock trader, as you said. So I wouldn't really go against what she's doing. So.
Look at that. Yeah,
right.
Look at that trend from back in November. That's crazy.
Exactly.
To come up like that.
Unreal.
So. Stock. Another stock I'm watching right now is Coinbase. With the ETF, the likelihood of starting to see more people coming into crypto, Coinbase could be a winner here. What are your thoughts on Coinbase stock right now?
Yeah, Coinbase, I mean, I'm not buying, that's for sure. I would have gotten out, and I mean, we've talked about this several times. And here's the daily chart. It's like whenever you get an opposing signal to the trend, you don't want to take it lightly. So, I mean, here's a great example of why. I mean, you're down from that recent signal, 16%. So it's one of those things where you want to consider those X's, which is the TP points on your way up, especially when you have a short-term rally like 120%. I always tell people, especially when you're trading, if you're ever in these stocks that are, earlier, they're ones that haven't been trading that long, maybe a few years. If you ever get 100% move on them, just understand that price is probably going to come back to earth at some point.
Yeah, take profit.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're still, developing as a company. They're still trying to work their way into how they're going to trade in these markets. And especially with this ETF news now, I mean, considering the sell-off, people are probably taking money out of Coinbase and they're throwing it into these ETFs. So, I mean, it's quite an interesting chart here in the short term, but very volatile. I'm not long in this until I see actually people start buying once again. So it's definitely done for the short term.
Yeah, Robinhood had a similar run, just not necessarily as volatile. I mean, it was 66% coming back to late November, that nice run. Remember, their earnings were a little soft, but they did pull a little bit of a Robinhood concept behind this. Was a tweet that they did. Is your brokerage holding you back? So they're trying to garner some of this funniness from Vanguard.
I love
it. They were basically memeing this like crazy. I don't know if this is going to play well, in the sense that we'll see a lot of investors. I think this is more of a marketing ploy for Robinhood in general.
Probably.
But does it move the stock? I mean, right now it's trading at 11.11, and it's down on the daily after a horrific day yesterday. What are your thoughts on Robinhood? Does this correct back down?
I mean, look at this weekly. It's like, in my opinion, the weekly here, I mean, this value is extreme. It's like it's especially from its IPO. I mean, obviously there was a lot of hatred after the whole GME incident that drove that stock down. But again, we found a lovely range that's trading in. So honestly, anything below, these highs is not a bad for any long-term investor right now. It's not a bad position. But on the daily here, it coming off of this, in this case, we see, the smart trail possibly acting as a retracement area. If I'm thinking technicals, like I'm gonna judge my swing points to make sure that, maybe this is a healthy retracement in which we're getting something that lines up with a previous high. So if this bounces, roughly around, this $10 range seems good. If this were to continue as an uptrend, you can see our trend catcher there is still bullish, which is a good sign. So long as price, I think $12. If we get bullish action through $12, I don't see why we wouldn't at least retest $13.50. So I'm bullish on $12 if we can actually show that we want to continue this trend.
Interesting. Okay. All right. That's one to watch. All right, guys. We're gonna, we have Jacob on every week to break down a lot of the analysis. Make sure and check out Lux Algo if you guys are looking at using some trading tools. This is the one we use, and it's the one I like. We're actually talking with Lux Algo now to try to develop a custom indicator for our MSI. We might have some interesting things coming up too on that. So we're still working on some of the tech that it would take to get the sentiment data in there. But check it out. Make sure and click the link down below. Jacob, always great having you on the show. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, it's fun. Let's keep it going. Right. Go Ethereum.
You bet. Go Ethereum. All right, so you guys, if you're not in the Diamond Circle, make sure and get in on that. It's another place for free content, additional research, all sorts of cool tools that we set over there. And be watching, because we're offering some interesting things in the Diamond Circle that you won't find here on the YouTube channel. So if anything, you should at least join for that reason. Catch me out there on X, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.